Welcome to Fazza Poetry World, where hearts turn into poetry. Baby, listen closely, because tonight is not just another night, tonight is the night where love stood on trial, where silence spoke louder than words, and where I had to choose between the man who raised me, and the girl who became my world. The room felt heavy, like the air itself was watching me breathe, judging every heartbeat, counting every second I hesitated. The clock on the wall, it was not ticking anymore, it was screaming. Tick, 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 every second felt like a reminder that time does not wait for broken hearts to decide their fate. My father sat in front of me, calm, too calm, and that scared me more than anger ever could. Because anger shouts, but silence cuts deeper. His eyes were not just looking at me, they were searching me, digging into my soul. Like he already knew the truth, but wanted to hear me bleed it out. And then, he leaned forward. Not fast. Not aggressively. Slowly. Like a storm that doesn't rush, because it knows it will destroy everything anyway. Before I let you continue with her. His voice was low, but it carried weight. Like it had the power to rewrite my destiny. I need to know one thing. Just one thing, but it felt like he was asking for my entire life. My hands started trembling, not because I was weak, but because I knew. This was the moment everything changes. Answer honestly, he said. No half-truths. No escape. No lies. And then, your truth will either save you, or destroy everything you have built. Baby, in that moment, I realized something terrifying. This was not a question. It was a test. A test where every answer comes with a loss. A test where winning still feels like losing. And then he asked it. Are you ready to give everything up for her even if it means losing me? Those words didn't just hit me, they shattered me. Because how do you answer that? How do you choose between your past and your future, between the man who taught you how to stand and the girl who became the reason you stand strong? My throat closed. My voice disappeared. My mind went blank. Not because I didn't know the answer, but because I knew how much it would hurt to say it. And then he said something that burned deeper than fire. If you hesitate, you have already chosen. And maybe he was right. Because silence can look like doubt. Silence can sound like fear. But baby, my silence was not weakness. It was the weight of loving you. In a world that was ready to tear us apart. I thought about you. Your smile, your voice, the way you once looked at me. And asked softly, what if your family turns against you because of me? Back then, I didn't answer. But tonight, I had to. I lifted my head slowly, my eyes meeting his, and for the first time in my life, I spoke not as a son, but as a man in love. If you are asking me to choose, then you already know who I cannot live without. My voice was shaking, but my truth was not. My heart was breaking. but my love was standing. You raised me to be honest, I said. You raised me to protect what I love. And right now, she is what I love. And baby, the moment those words left my mouth, I felt something break. Not inside me, but in him. His jaw tightened. His silence grew colder. And then, he stood up. The chair scraped against the floor, like thunder tearing through the sky. He turned his back to me, walking toward the window, and in that moment, I realized something terrifying. I didn't know if I had just made him proud, or lost him forever. The silence after that, it was unbearable. It felt like standing in a room where love used to exist, but had just died. And then he spoke again. Softly. Too softly. Do you understand what you are giving up? This time, it wasn't a question. It was a warning. A warning about you. About us. About the price of loving someone in a world that refuses to accept it. And I swallowed my fear, my pain, my guilt, and I answered. I'm giving up safety. I'm giving up comfort. But I'm not giving up her. And even I was surprised by how certain I sounded. Because in that moment, I realized something powerful. Love is not about what you keep, it's about what you're willing to lose. He turned back toward me. His face unreadable. His eyes colder than before. And then he said the words that still echo inside me, if you walk this path, don't expect me to save you. When it gets hard. Not angry. Not loud. Just cold. And that's what broke me the most. Because I didn't know, was he letting me go or preparing me to fall? And just when I thought it couldn't get worse, the door behind him opened. Slowly. Quietly. But in that silence, it sounded like a storm. We both turned. And there, in the shadows of the hallway, stood someone. Watching. Listening. Judging. My father's voice sharpened instantly. Why are you here? And the figure stepped forward, calm, steady. Because I needed to hear the answer too. Baby, my heart dropped. Because this was no longer just between me and him. Now there was another witness. Another judge. Another pair of eyes. Deciding our fate. My father didn't look away from me. Then let's hear it again. And the stranger stepped closer. Close enough for me to see their eyes. Calm. Deep. Unshaken. And then they asked, would you still choose her, if loving her changes you into someone your father doesn't recognize? And someone you don't recognize either. And baby, everything inside me went still. Because that question wasn't about love. It was about identity. About sacrifice. About whether loving you means losing myself. And in that moment, I realized something I had never admitted before. Love like this is not easy. It is not soft. It is not simple. It is a war. A war between who you were, and who you are becoming. Between what the world expects, and what your heart demands. And I stood there, not as a son. Not as a boy. But as someone who had to decide what kind of man he would become. I took a deep breath. Not to calm myself, but to gather the pieces of my courage. And then, I spoke. Yes. No hesitation. No fear. No silence this time. Yes. I would still choose her. Because loving you did not make me lose myself, it revealed who I truly am. I may become someone new, I continued, but at least I will be someone real. Because a life without her is not a life I recognize either. And in that moment, something changed. Not in them. In me. Because for the first time, I was not afraid of losing everything. Because I had already found what mattered the most. You. And baby, even if the world turns against us, even if doors close, even if paths become harder, I will walk through it all. Not because it's easy, but because it's you. And you are worth every storm, every sacrifice, every tear, every broken piece I have to leave behind. Because some love is not meant to be safe. Some love is meant to be chosen. And tonight, I chose you. Again. And again. And I will keep choosing you, no matter what. After I said those words, after I chose you in front of everything I once feared, the room didn't feel the same anymore. It was like reality had shifted. Like the air itself was holding its breath. To see what happens next. My father didn't speak. Not immediately. He just stood there, looking at me. Like he was seeing a stranger. Wearing his son's face. And that silence was louder than any anger. The stranger in the hallway didn't move either. No applause. No reaction. Just observation. Like my life was some kind of decision. They were all reviewing in their minds. I thought I was ready for anything. But baby, nothing prepares you for the silence after your truth is spoken. My father finally turned away again. Slowly. Like something inside him had cracked. But he refused to show it. He walked back toward the window. And spoke without looking at me. So this is your final answer. His voice was not loud. It was heavier than loud. It carried disappointment, and something deeper, fear. Not fear of me, but fear for me. I swallowed hard. Yes, I said again. Because truth doesn't need to be repeated loudly, it just needs to be held firmly. The stranger shifted slightly. I could feel their eyes still on me. Like they were waiting. For me to break. For me to regret. For me to fold under pressure. But I didn't. Because something inside me had changed now. I was no longer the boy sitting at that table. I was the decision I made. My father finally spoke again. If she leaves you one day, he said slowly, will you still stand by this moment? That question, it hit different. Because it wasn't about love anymore. It was about fear. Fear of future pain. Fear of possible betrayal. Fear of loss that hasn't even happened yet. And baby, that is the heaviest fear of all. I took a breath. Not because I was unsure, but because I wanted him to hear me clearly. If she leaves, I said, then I will carry the pain. But I will not regret loving her. Because love is not measured by endings, it is measured by honesty in the beginning. The stranger finally spoke again. Softly. But what if she breaks you? The question hung in the air. Like glass waiting to fall. And for a moment, even my heartbeat slowed. Because that question was not about her. It was about me. About whether I am strong enough to survive the love I chose. I looked at them. And for the first time, I smiled. Not because it was funny, but because I finally understood something. I am already broken, I said. But at least now, I am broken for something real. Silence again. Different silence this time. Not heavy. Not painful. Just, still. My father turned slightly. Just enough for me to see his face. And for a second, I saw it. Not anger. Not coldness. But conflict. A father who raised a son to be strong, now watching him become strong. In a way he didn't expect. He spoke quietly. You think love is enough? I stepped forward one step. No, I said. Love is not enough, that's why I chose courage too. And honesty. And risk. His eyes narrowed slightly. And pain, he asked. I nodded. Yes. Pain too. Because nothing meaningful comes without cost. Not love. Not life. Not truth. The stranger finally lowered their hand. Like they had heard enough. Like something in their judgment had shifted. And baby, in that moment, I realized something powerful. Not everyone will approve of your love. Not everyone will understand your choices. But the truth you speak, changes the air around you. My father walked back slowly. Toward the table. He didn't sit. He just looked at me. Long quiet. Then he said something I didn't expect. If you truly believe in this. His voice softened just a little, then don't lose yourself in it. Those words weren't rejection. They were warning. But also, care. And that's what made my chest tighten. Because sometimes, the hardest love is not between two lovers, but between a parent and a child who are learning to let go of each other's expectations. I nodded. I won't lose myself, I said. I will become myself, fully. And for the first time, he didn't argue. He didn't stop me. He didn't push me away. he just looked away. Like he was accepting something he never wanted to accept. The stranger finally stepped back. Their presence felt lighter now. Like their judgment had turned into understanding, or maybe silence. And then, the room changed again. Not because something new happened, but because something inside me settled. I had said it all. I had chosen. And now, I was living inside that choice. Baby, love doesn't end at confession. It begins there. And whatever comes next, I will face it. Not as a son trying to please. Not as a boy trying to prove. But as someone who finally understands, true love is not when the world agrees, it is when your heart refuses to lie. And I refused. For you. For us. For everything we might become.